everyone, welcome to DevOps Info channel. In the previous videos, we looked at the Azure Automation accounts and how they can be used to manage the configuration, update management, and automate the process. We also began discussing how to initiate the Azure Automation by utilizing the webhook requests. So if you take a look at that on the left side, on the automation account, we have almost taken care of seeing about the configuration management, update management, and also the process automation. Uh, Today, we'll discuss the various source control integrations that are available in the Azure Automation accounts and how utilizing them is going to help us in performing our daily operations or maintaining our scripts. So the Azure Automation source control allows for a one-way synchronization with the source control repository. Be it, let's say, if you want to use a source control by a team where it's a shared repository, they wanted to, update their scripts for the operations. You can have the source control as a GitHub, or you can have a source control as Azure DevOps, and then you can update your runbooks through the automation account and the operations all your scheduled job can be completely run from the automation account. Um, for example, even the code that can be tested in your environment can be quickly moved into the production automation account using this functionality. We'll take a look at that in this a few minutes. So you can also simply track the changes, collaborate with your team, go back to the prior versions of your runbook because all is something you're going to do it on the DevOps or on the GitHub repository as a source control integration. So which is going to be a shared repository. So in this case, you can simply track the changes, and also you can ask your team to collaborate and then go back to the previous versions or update this, update them and publish it. So you can also synchronize the several source control branches, for instance, with your development, test, production, and automation accounts. You can have different automation accounts, and you can synchronize the several source control branches. So basically, in the Azure Automation account, if you want to manage the source control, all you need to do is simply go into the portal.azure.com and then come into the automation account. And you're going to look for, select your automation account. And in the automation account, you're just going to come and click on the source control. Uh, the moment when you click on the source control, there is an option to add the uh, the source control. So when you click on add, you have three types of source control like GitHub, Azure DevOps, and Team Foundation version control if you still use the on-premise version. So the moment when you click on the DevOps, it is going to ask you to authenticate and then give you the repository. So here you can give your main branch, or you can give your branch and then merge the branch to the main branch. That is also possible. And then the folder path. I can show you the one which I've already added. So here, this is the Azure DevOps thing. So the moment when I click on select, you see I have the source control Azure DevOps, and then the source control type Azure DevOps Git. I've already authenticated. The repository is the Toybox Innovation, which I have created. And the branch is, I have multiple branches. I have not selected the main branch. So I've just selected the test runbook, which is one of the branch, and in the branch there is a folder path which is a runbook. So basically what your team can do is, this is a folder path where your team can update the scripts, but keep in mind the scripts can be only PowerShell or Python. So your team can update, for example, a PowerShell script on this particular folder, and that particular PowerShell script will be immediately published on the runbooks, which is present in this automation account. So you have an option called autosync. So this autosync will set up automatic syncing of runbooks on each commit. So the moment when this branch is committed by your team, then it is going to do the automatic syncing when each commit is done. So this is also publish runbook. This will publish the runbooks after importing them to the Azure Automation account. So this or these two options you can enable, so it is automatically published. So the moment when you do that, all you need to do is just simply click on start sync. After that, it is going to sync. But there are few things which you need to do for the Azure DevOps. So in the DevOps, you have to go into your DevOps account, into your DevOps repository. So this is my Toybox Innovation repository, and in the Toybox in your repository, you need to make sure the third-party application access via OAuth is enabled. So this is very important. So only then when you enable this option, it is going to work. And one more thing, the automation account requires uh, either a system or a user assigned managed identity. So on the DevOps side, in your repository, you need to make sure the third-party app application access via OAuth is enabled. After that, uh, let's say you want to manage only the code on your automation accounts. You're going to have a folder in the Azure uh, repository, and in the repository you will have the scripts created, and that is if you want that to be coming to the runbooks and automation account, all you need to do is you need to have the role assignments the with the automation contributor. So if you see here, there is something called automation contributor. So in this automation contributor, you have to select for that particular managed identity, which will look similar exactly to the automation account you have created, and you have to give the automation contributor access. There can be also a few cases where, for example, uh, you wanted to manage the virtual machine through the automation accounts. Like, for example, you want to turn off the virtual machine which is running in your Azure environment after some time, and if you wanted to manage that completely, so you need to give that particular role assignment to the automation account in the manager entity. So simply you need to come into the role assignment, and then you have to add a role assignment, and in the role assignment you just need to go next, and then for example I am typing virtual machine contributor. Yeah, so in this virtual machine contributor, when I select this and go next, oh, okay, it's not selecting for some reason. Okay, so I have selected the virtual machine contributor, and here you need to select the managed identity. In the managed identity, you have to select the members, and be sure you select the automation account. And if you have multiple automation account, it is going to show, but you have to select the correct automation account managed identity, which needs the permission to turn on, turn off the virtual machine or any activities that it needs to be done on that particular virtual machine. So you need to be sure that the correct permission is assigned in to that particular automation account managed identity to perform the action. But in our case, like we are just going to modify only the run books. Like let's say the team is going to create the run books, which would be from the DevOps Git repository, and then that particular run would be updated in the automation account. For that, all you need to do is you just need to have the automation contributor, and then publish that. Sorry, you need to have the allow third party application via access via was turned on. And there is one more thing where you need to make sure in the authorization you have allowed the Azure automation source control. So this is very important. So you need to first have on the Azure side, you need to have the third party application access via OAuth is enabled, and number two, you need to make sure that the Azure automation under the authorizations, the Azure automation source control is selected. There is a very good Microsoft article to follow, which is using the source control integration. I will post this link in the video. You can follow the same step, and then you can add the source control, DevOps, and the GitHub. It is going to be the same process which is mentioned on this article. You can follow the article, and it is going to be the same. Uh, Going further, the moment when you access it, you can also use the PowerShell to configure the source control in the automation. For example, you can use the PowerShell commandlets for this operation. You need the personal access token. So this is something called the personal access token, and you can use the PowerShell to configure the source control. In that case, you need to create this personal access token, and then you have to convert this personal access token to a secure string. There is also an article for this. That article is step. Sorry, that step is mentioned on the same article, Microsoft article, which we are looking at it. I will post that in the video. Uh, so The moment after you configure the source control, in our case, for example, we have the source control Visual Studio Git. So in the Visual Studio Git, I'm just going into the source control, which is the test run book. If you take a look at it, yes, I have selected the branch test run book. I have not selected any other. I have not selected the main branch. I've selected the test run book, and I have mentioned the folder path run book. So you have the same option when looking into your repository in the DevOps. So here I have the test run book branch, and in the test run book branch, I have the move CS user PS1. So for example, if I wanted to go and remove this, let's say I'm removing this. Yep, I'm just putting. I'm not putting any test. I'm not putting any work items to link. I'm just putting on commit. Yep, it is gone because it's a branch where I have not set any approvals for this demo, so it is deleted. So here I am coming back to the automation account. In the automation account, I can show you just a second. What is the current status? In the automation accounts, if you see the run books, I have moved CS user, which is in edit mode. So what I'm doing is just coming back to the automation. Here you have to go and type the source control. In the source control, I'm selecting the Visual Studio Git. I'm clicking on the start sync. The moment when I'm doing a start sync, you can just go to the sync jobs, and here I'm going to select the Azure DevOps. Of course, we have done it on the Azure DevOps. So it is in the queue. The moment when you click on queue, it is going to show you waiting for the job output. You can do few refresh. Yes, it is doing something, setting the Azure environment. It is trying to support runbooks to sync. You can see it in few minutes. It is connecting to VSTS, and then in another few minutes, you see it's file sync. It is test1.ps1. That is what I have right now. This is only test1.ps1. So that's the reason it is showing test1.ps1. So if you want to upload one, I can just go back into my uh, in my DevOps repository. I have chosen in the test run book branch file. Here I'm going to upload one new script. So let's say I'm going here and I'm selecting offboard.ps1. This is one of the script. So I'm added offboard.ps1 to runbook folder. Just clicking on commit. Yeah, this is committed. So I'm going back to the automation source control, uh, and then going to re-trigger the sync. So let's go to the source control. This is the Visual Studio Git. I'm doing the start sync. Okay. So we have initiated the sync, going back to the DevOps, go back to the queue, and we see the job output, which is in progress. Let's do a refresh. It's doing something. One more time, refresh, setting up the Azure environment, refresh. Let's see, connecting to the VSTS, and then refresh. Yeah, you see two files synced, offboard.ps1 and test.ps1. Um, so if I go back into the automation, when I do a refresh, still I need to wait for some time. Yeah, you see offboard.ps1 is present. But you can see the move-cs user is present. This is because I have another the source which is uh, the source control which is the Git. In the Git, I have the same script. That's the reason it is showing up there. So I have the GitHub. In the GitHub, I have the source control, which is simply I have merge it to the master branch. So this is my Git repo, and in the Git repo I have move cs user.ps1, and that's the reason it is on. If you still, if you wanted to see the changes, I can do, for example, here in the move cs user, let's say that the sleep time is 30 seconds. If you go back to the automation account, here in the move cs user, um, let's do an edit. Yeah, you see the sleep time is 30 seconds. Okay, let's do a change on this part. I'm going back into the Azure, sorry, in the GitHub repo. I'm making the sleep time as, oops, I need to edit now. I'm doing it directly on the web for the demo, instead of doing any editor. Yeah, from the sleep 30, I'm making it as 50 just for this example. I'm going down. I'm going to do a commit updated seconds from 30 to 50. Okay, commit the changes. All right, so this is done. So when I go back to the source control, here we are going to do the sync for the GitHub. Yeah, previously we saw for the DevOps. Now we are going to use the same for the GitHub. Going to do a start sync. Yeah, source control job started, and then in the sync jobs you go back. Now we are going to select the GitHub, and you see the GitHub it is queued, and it is also waiting for the job output. Let's do a refresh. What I have noticed is the DevOps repo is faster than the GitHub. Yeah, still it is queued. We need to wait for some time. Yeah, we have updated a minute ago, but still it is taking some time. But usually it is not that much time. Yeah, so this is one way. Maybe we can come back and see. Uh, After some time, you could see the move CS user, which would be showing as showing the time as updated, because it was 30. We changed it from 30 to 50, but still it is showing 30. So that's the reason. Um, so still we have to wait for some time. Yeah, it is an edit, but we should wait for some time. Yeah, you see, it has completed. It says setting the Azure environment, and now you see it is connecting to the GitHub. Yeah, in the GitHub, it says one file sync, move CS user PS1. So let's go now and take a look at the move CS user. Let's refresh, move CS user. We are going to see in the view mode. You see, the sleep is changed to 50 seconds. Earlier it was 30 seconds, it is 50 seconds. So, which is really good, right? You're able to modify everything from the Azure, from your GitHub, or from your Azure DevOps pipeline. So this is one of the example where you can add the webhook and a scheduled task, which we will look at it in the upcoming videos. And also there are multiple ways. For example, if you want to do this via the Visual Studio GitHub, that is also possible. So in the Visual Studio, sorry, in the Visual Studio Code, there is something called extensions. You can use the extensions, and then you can connect. In the extensions, you need to look for the Azure Automation. So there is something called uh, Azure Automation. So you have to install this extension Azure Automation, and the moment when you install this Azure Automation, you need to open the command palette, Control Shift P, and then you have to use the Azure sign in into your Azure portal, and then select the subscription where you have your automation account. The moment when you do that, you would be able to see all your automation uh, runbooks, whatever is present on the portal. You'll be able to see this, and then the best part is like you can simply go ahead. Uh, you can open it locally, publish the runbook, start the automation. You can run locally. You can run in debug mode. You can also add a new webhook, link a schedule, delete a runbook. All these things you'll be able to do it from the Visual Studio Code extension, which is the Azure Automation account. Yeah. So this is also one of the best option if you wanted to start doing your scripting from the Azure completely. You can definitely make use of this Azure Automation extension by simply going into the View extension, and then you're going to install the extension, and then all the runbooks is going to show, and you can completely manage your runbooks from this way also. So the source control integration lets you easily collaborate with your team, track the changes, and roll back to the earlier version of your runbooks. For example, the source control allows you to synchronize different branches in source control with your development, test, and production automation accounts. So, for example, the code that has been tested in your development environment can be quickly promoted into your production automation account using this functionality by your team with a shared repository model. Finally, we saw a few options available to manage the runbooks from the source control option, which can be very well a good starting point to move your operational tasks where the admins are utilizing the local task scheduler in the service, or individual manual actions for any Office 365 or Azure tasks that is triggered individually from this species. Even with this, you can definitely manage your on-premise activities also. Uh, Hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to subscribe to get more updates on the Microsoft Cloud platform. Thank you.